Your next step will be to select objects that you want to get migrated. Select their migration strategy and potential filters, in case you would like to filter out some data from migration. Let's say you already have some data in your target CRM and you would like to avoid creating duplicates. Then you can always select matching strategy for your migration of this object. This way, once you set up a matching criteria, if some records do not match this criteria and they will get created in your new CRM. And the matching records will just merge to existing records in your new CRM. A good example can be users. If there are already some matching users in your new CRM, but you would still like to create new ones that are missing, then you can set it to matching and migration strategy. Might you already have imported all the records of the specific object? For example, there was some previous import that transferred all of your contact data and you just need their related data to be migrated, like opportunities, activities, etc. Then you just need to set matching strategy to your contacts and disable migration strategy for this object. As you can see, for every object, you can set the strategy separately. Let's say also you don't need any records that have been created in your CRM before 2020 to be migrated. In this case, you can utilize our filter, the filter for every object that you want to partially transfer this way. So here's out time is after or equal. Let's say you want to only move calls after 2020, so that will be 2020 January 1st. And that's the same way you can do this to all the objects that you want to filter out. Following this example, you can actually customize filter up to your own vision. Keep in mind that you can change object mapping. For example, you want to map your leads to leads object, or maybe you want to map it to a custom object. By the way, your native objects will show up with a green leaf on them, and any custom object that you have will show up with a hammer icon on it. So, for example, you want to map them to a custom object, and you can also do that. And also, you can map the same object twice. Let's say you wanted to split up leads data between custom object and your contacts, or leads and contacts, and you can also do that and set up the filters to split them up between two objects. If there's some object that you didn't see here in the default list, then you can always find it here in the list of the full list of available objects and just add it. You can map it to existing object or create a new one. You can also create a custom object for some CRMs where it's compatible. Now, a new exciting step, mapping of fields. Every object field schema is separated here by tabs, and you can navigate the tabs or objects here. You can see your source CRM object field schema on the left and new destination CRM object on the right. The fields you see on the right already exist in your CRM, and we found and mapped to them as the best match we could find based on the name and type. Also, a bunch of source CRM fields which we didn't find a match for due to multiple reasons. A matching field does not exist in a new CRM, or this is a system field and it also exists in the new CRM, but we cannot edit it because it's restricted. Or it's a custom field and it just needs to be added in the new CRM in order to be mapped, and you can easily do this through our tool. First thing you want to do before diving into editing this mapping would be to know how much these fields are populated. For this, you can click on the three dots button on the top right corner, select Fields Usage option, and it will take a minute, but you will see a usage for every field on your source CRM object and will be able to make your decisions from here. One more helpful feature is data examples. You can click on it in front of each field that is filled in order to get an example for the field that you're not sure about. You don't have to go back to your source CRM, and you can just click the data examples and get some random real example of the value in this field. This might help you to understand what sort of data you have in it and decide whether it needs to be mapped or not without browsing inside of your source CRM and looking for examples. Filters feature will allow you to manage the fields you want to work with and simplify your mapping process. You can filter out all CRM fields by native and custom criteria. Just to clarify, here you can get either native fields from source CRM that are mapped to custom fields, or also custom fields from source CRM. And here you can only get the ones that are mapped to the native fields or exclusively native fields. You can use relation criteria, if this field is an association or relation or non-relation. You can use a couple of fields simultaneously. You can filter by usage here, so that way you will get only the fields that are being used, and maybe unmapped. So that will shorten your task. By default, your fields are in order of importance. First, we prioritize associations fields, then mapped fields, and in the end, the fields by usage, just sorted by usage. You can always change the order of your fields display the way it suits you more. In alphabetic order, ascending, in usage order, descending, or by default. All of these features are focused on simplifying your mapping process. You can also leave notes for your team members if multiple people have access to this mapping and are reviewing it together to help you capture all important fields with the migration. Sometimes it can happen that you have a text field or a number field in Source CRM that you need to transfer into a pick list. You can also do that with our feature unique values. It will allow you to get all unique values in your source field and map them to existing dropdowns of your pick list in new CRM. You can map one field twice and split up the values if needed. To map the field multiple times, if it's already been mapped, then you can go to Unmapped Field, click Select Field so you can search for it, click Apply. Now let's dive into one more complicated at first functionality of our tool that can help you to achieve the best result if you're working with different source and target CRM types. It's called functions. Dependency. Let's imagine you have a couple of similar purpose and slightly used fields that you don't really want to recreate in your new CRM because you're strategizing and you want a clean new process with only one field for this purpose. You select a few fields in your source CRM, field in new CRM. This will allow you to make sure that the field in the new CRM will be populated with values in one of the source fields and filled in as much as possible in the same time. Join function will also work for this use case, in case those are a bunch of text fields that you're okay to merge into one multi-line text field. So here I use join, and actually anything can merge together. Multiply function is used more rarely and allows you to create combinations from multiple fields and map it into one dropdown or multiple checkboxes field. For example, you have different pipelines and statuses in your source CRM, and in order to map them best into the new CRM pipeline stages that are only related to one pipeline each and cannot be cross-related, you need to multiply your pipeline and stage statuses fields from source CRM, map them into new CRM pipeline stage field, and that works through combinations mapping to achieve the best result. So you can see here the combinations created, and then you can map them to the matching pipeline stages. So for example, if it's open, then it goes to this one, and deleted probably you can just unmap, and underscore means that this is a combination when there is no status, but there is a pipeline stage. If it's unlikely, then you can just unmap it and just work through this, just matching them correctly. Combine function is useful when you want to map multiple fields into a multiple checkbox field. That way, it will have multiple values selected. A great example of this can be if your team used checkbox fields for your business processes, but those can actually be all consolidated into one pick list with names of those fields. So I will create one. Now, you see we have two different checkbox fields here that false. What we can do is to combine them together, and when the option is true, we can set the corresponding value in your new drop-down field, new consolidated field. Cascade option gives you a possibility to best populate important fields in your CRM and consolidate data from multiple fields our fields from with multiple values without creating duplicates in a new CRM. Here's a good example. Your source CRM allows to store multiple email addresses in one field, and you have 4 to 5 fields with different email types like this. It can end up having like 16 email fields in your new CRM if you decide to create them one-to-one. However, your new CRM does allow to populate one field with multiple values into it. So the option is, what you can do is to migrate multiple email values into one, is to use this function cascade and map into the primary email first, and then you select additional email fields from source CRM and as many as you want. After that, you add additional emails. So now the function will check whether any of these fields in a contact have values, and will put the first value into primary email, and the rest of them will go to additional emails. This also works well with phone numbers, addresses, fields, etc. Let's go back to the drop-down fields. Our tool also allows you to add unique missing values in the new CRM picklists. For this, you need to click Update Target Options and select additional options that you want to add, or all options. And once they have been added, it'll just take a second. So this has added your options to the target CRM drop-down field, and now you can go back and have to map them one-to-one. Now, let's say there is some field that your team has recently added to the source CRM or target CRM, and you really need to map it. So let's go ahead and add that field in my source CRM. I'm going to add one field in a deal. So you really need to add this field, and it will not show up in your mapping just like that. You need to click refresh, and clicking Auto Map Unmapped will allow our wizard to automatically map best matches of newly added fields. So if you added quite a few fields and you'd like them to be automatically mapped and not to do this manually, yes, click yes. If it's just a few fields and you know exactly how you want to map them, they might have different names and types between your CRMs, then better to click no. So in this case, anyway, they will end up here, but they will not get mapped to anything. So additional, I have to do this on deals. Here it is. So now you can go ahead and map it to whatever you think is best. One more important mapping feature that will save you a ton of time when you have a lot of custom fields is called custom fields. It detects all custom fields that you have in source CRM object schema, their labels, internal names, and to select them, and with one click, you can have them all automatically created in your new CRM. If you did click on field usage earlier, you would benefit from knowing how much populated those fields are in your source CRM and make decisions and uncheck custom fields that you do not need and create only necessary ones. Once you clicked, the field get created and automatically mapped to your source fields by name and type. So you can see these two fields, they got automatically created and mapped. Another helpful feature is a test mode. You can get an ID from your source CRM for any record and just test how it looks in the new CRM without creating it actually. So clicking by test mode and inserting the ID or link of the record and click preview, you can get a virtual prototype of your record, and our tool will show it to you right in the mapping user interface, and you can switch off the test mode anytime and go back to your mappings. You can also easily operate with mapping versions. Every time you save, you can name your version, and you can navigate between your versions by clicking versions and then going back to, you can see the date stamps of every version. You can go back to any of them and use this version, or once it's implemented, you can come back, you can click on the version and come back to the latest one. This bottom one is your version where you started working. So basically, scroll down a little bit. The base one should be somewhere on the bottom. Yep. So if you click on this one and use that version, it will just bring you back to the beginning. You can start from scratch if you use this version. Or you can just go, let's just go back to the version. And the way you can restart everything, you can click reset, and that way it will just bring your mapping to the initial state. Another useful thing here, you can clear the mapping, so that way it will just remove every automatic mapping or anything that you have done so far, and you will have to start fresh, and every field that's important to you will have to remap manually. We already talked about the field's usage. And one more very useful for me feature is called public link. So if you click on it, you will get the bigger screen of your mapping, and that's only for doing the mapping. Then once you save your changes, it will automatically show up in the wizard, and you can just continue from here, but your changes are already here and they are implemented into your wizard. So you have a choice. You can either do mapping on your public link, having access to a bigger screen, or just keep working here if it's comfortable. Once you completed work on mapping for all of your objects, you can move forward to the next step, matching. Your users always be automatically matched by email address and name, but you can always customize this by choosing a different criteria if needed. Right here, you can select something else or remove, for example, matching by name, save and rematch it again. Let's say you have already completed matching, and then there's a couple of users that have been recently added, and you just need those to be mapped. So let's just do that. Just add one user. So what you can do in order to get this user into this match, you can click refresh, and it will not make any changes to the users that you have already matched, but it will only add one user that have been recently added and match it according to this criteria. So now the tool is recollecting the cache from Source CRM platform for users in order to get the latest data, and after that it will rematch the users, the new users only, with the most recent selected criteria. Just give it a moment. Quite a few users in the new portal, so it's taking a minute. Okay, so the new user that I've added is showing up with the label new. We can manually set mapping to something, or we can just remove it. And you have noticed that we have selected the create new strategy. So by default, it's setting to create new. If you check this one also, or if you uncheck it, then it will just ignore this user for the migration. For this one, it will create new. Now, if you want to you don't want to maintain the user association to all of your users, for example, you cannot or you do not want to create old users in the new CRM. In this case, you can match your old users to other new users manually, like I showed you. Or if you want to map multiple users to one, then you can use bulk matching feature here. Bulk matching records will be matched. Okay, so we just need to select the filter of not matched because we just want to apply that change to only not matched users. And after that, we want to match them to some user, let's say this one. So now if you clean the filter, you can see that we preserved the mapping for one user, and the others that got unmatched, we map them to this specific user. Natalia can go back to Natalia. The rest we don't care really about this users. We want them to go to someone else, the new user, who can take over ownership of records of these users. If you selected any other objects for matching, you can set matching criteria for them and get them matched as well. For example, this company, we are mapping, and we want to match companies that have the same values in source ID field and account ID field. So that will give us a list of the companies that got matched. And the same thing we should do for contacts. If we know this matching criteria, we can define matching rules. Let's do like email address, for example, and match. Now you're one step from testing your sample. You can select records. You can just put in the links for the sample record that you want to test, links or IDs, and our tool will use them. And after that, you can go grab a cup of tea because our tool will take a few minutes to provide you with your sample result. Enjoy!